As soon as I finished the dollhouse for Jennifer, my wife Sarah started begging me to build her a miniature house. At first I was very reluctant to do so because I knew I had so many houses to build for the rest of my granddaughters. However, I finally condescended and asked her what kind of a house does she want me to build. Her preference was a antebellum Southern colonial type house, typical, similar to Tara in Gone with the Wind, and I thought that was a pretty good idea because in each one of the houses that I build, I wanted to build something architecturally different than the preceding one. And since I hadn't built a Southern colonial, I thought I'd go ahead and try it. At first, I was getting ready to build the house, and then I said, no, I'm not sure what I want. I'd better build a little 1/8 inch scale model of the miniature house so that I can get a better idea of what it looks like as opposed to just drawing a picture or making the plans on a piece of paper. And I came up with my first little model, which is this model. And as you can see, it looked pretty good for a miniature plantation type home with the columns and the front porch. But the more I looked at it, the more I realized that this was almost like a government house in Washington, D.C. And it just didn't look like a home. And I just gave up on this one and said, no, I'm going to have to build one that looks more like a home. So I proceeded to build my second little model. I came up with this model, which had a little bit more of the home type atmosphere, and something was still lacking here. I had my columns and I had my little widow's walk on top. I had the front entrance, but it still wasn't the house that I thought I would be satisfied with. And I decided that instead of building any more models at this particular time, I'd better go ahead and research and look at more pictures of Southern colonial type homes. After quite a bit of research, I found a beautiful home. This home is called Devereaux. It's a very famous Southern plantation type home on the outskirts of Natchez, Mississippi. I fell in love with this particular house, but it just didn't seem that it would be large enough to show as many rooms as I would need, and I decided that maybe if I added a wing on both sides of the house, it would give me the look I wanted, and also it would give me the rooms that I needed. And I got real excited about this house and said, you know, I'm going to make a little 1/8 inch scale model of this house and see what it looks like. I came up with a very rough model of what I wanted. As you can see, I added the wings on either side, had my columns, had my front porch, my look, my homey look, but there was still something that just didn't look right. I finally figured out that this roof line on both sides of the wings were just too low, and they should have been as high as the original roof. And I thought that I ought to go ahead and try to get that look. So back to the drawing board, back to the models, scale model labors, and I came up with this final home that had everything I wanted. It had the look of the Devereaux house. It had the wings, but notice that this time the roof line is the same height as the original roof, and it made the whole house look more like a one-piece home instead of a patched affair as I had in the one that showed the roof lower. I was very pleased with this, and I'll show you the back of the house now. I left the back open so that all the rooms could be viewed, and I also included 4 tall columns in the rear. In the regular Devereux home, the rear of the home would probably enter into the back lawn or the patio, and this is the model that I finally decided on to make the regular 1 inch to the foot model for Sarah. Sarah finally got her Southern Colonial dream house. This is what she's been waiting for all this time. And of course, having finished it, it took about a year to do it. I'm very proud myself that it worked and came out as beautifully as it did. The only thing that I changed on the original Devereux house, in addition to the wings that we added on, was I added 2 dormers on top of the roof, and the original house did not have dormers, but I thought it would have a real good effect. Starting at the extreme left end, I want to call your attention to the shutters and the little shutter holdbacks. These were kept open in normal weather, but when they had extreme storms such as rain or heavy winds, they would just release these little holdbacks, close their shutters, and be completely protected. The clapboard siding that you see was very typical of the Southern Colonial homes, and the actual scale of this clapboard was made typical to the scale of the clapboard that was used. Most of the Southern Colonial homes are painted white, as you see, with a very dark green contrast on the shutters. The beautiful columns that you see with the capitals, I was very fortunate in being able to get the last 10 that the manufacturer had. I used 6 of these on the front and put 4 on the back. I had to make the bases for them, as these were just regular columns without bases, but it worked out beautifully. And then all the other molding I added as a little extra trim. The shingles on the roof are actually asphaltic shingles. The only difference between these and real asphaltic shingles is in the size and the thickness, but everything is to scale. The brickwork you see at the bottom on the steps and the foundations under the columns were all put in 1 brick at a time, and then the grout or the mortar was sprayed, wiped off as a typical mortar job would do, and then the remaining water would stay in the cracks and keep the brick together. Also, the bottom of the house is ventilated with the lattice work. Notice also the beautiful wicker porch furniture, the flower stands, and the lions guarding the doors, the front entrance lights, and of course the mint julep for the colonel. However, this particular mint julep looks more like lemonade to me. The beautiful wrought iron balcony and the porch chandelier was made by a very good friend of mine, a very famous miniaturist. His name is Chet Spatcher. And as a special order, he made these two items for this house. I also have some backlighting that you can't see to reflect on the house. All of the electrical system in this house is also 12 volt. And this particular house has 5 transformers, since we have a tremendous amount of lamps that we'll see when we go around to the back and view the rooms. I think the only thing I did not mention was the front door downstairs and upstairs are also a typical fan-like type door that was used in these big, beautiful homes. And I was not able to buy a ready-made front door, so I had to make both of these from scratch. Now let's go around and back and we'll view some of the rooms. As you can see, the entire back of the house is left open because this seems to be the most practical way to show all of the rooms of the dollhouse. I want to point out again the 4 columns that are similar to the 6 columns that we used in the front. And this would be your back porch. The most difficult part of building this particular house was the unsupported spiral staircase that you see right here in the center. The banisters were so difficult to turn, and they were under such strain that it would collapse on me every time I tried to make the turns. I don't think I would ever build another spiral staircase of this type in any of my future dollhouses because of all the trouble that I had in building it. The rooms are divided on either side, with the kitchen and dining room on one side and the living room and the library or entertainment room on the other side. Of course, your bedrooms upstairs with their bathrooms. We'll go into each room now. Now also, I want to show you the attic. The spiral staircase going from the bottom up into the attic is one continuous spiral, and then it goes up into a metal spiral staircase. It goes up into the captain's quarters or the widow's wall. We'll get a better view of that a little later. Now let's look and view each one of the rooms. We're now coming in the front entrance door, and we enter into a beautiful black and white marble tiled floor. And just to the side of the front entrance is a beautiful grandfather's clock, and just in front of that a hat, coat, and umbrella rack that was in almost every plantation type home as you entered. From this room we either went upstairs through the winding spiral staircase, or we entered into our living room, which was just to the left of our beautiful southern belle. Note also the mirror on the wall and the fan light over the sliding doors was also handmade. From the foyer, we enter into the living room through these sliding door panels that are embedded and slide back into the wall. We enter the living room, which is in the front area, and in the rear is the music room, which is separated by an arched wall supported by two beautiful white columns. All of the tapestry panels on the walls are coordinated with a beautiful needlepoint rug that Sarah made. All the colors are coordinated. And note the drapes in the rear, the valances are also of the same tapestry. Pearl Brook made the curtains. In the back music room, we have a very beautiful handmade harp, which is a signatured instrument made by George Becker. On the left wall, we have the marble fireplace, and directly over the fireplace is a framed portrait of Sarah, which is similar to the one that is actually in her home over her fireplace. This was typical with the one done for Jennifer's house. We also have a odd piece in the furniture, which is a gout stool or bench, and this furniture is made by Leonetta. Going from the living room, there is an arched entranceway into the library and reading room, which we will see next. We're now in the library or reading room, and all of the cabinets and bookshelves that you see are made of beautiful walnut wood and are handmade. The little game table in the front with the two chairs has a beautiful little miniature chess set. Directly behind that is another table near the window where most of the correspondence was handwritten. There's a little pen holder on the table. In the rear of the room is an easy chair of leather. This happens to be a signature piece by Summerlot. Alongside the chair is a old-fashioned smoking stand, and on the floor is a handmade tiger skin that Sarah fashioned from a pattern. All of the windows have matchstick blinds, and I'd like to call your attention to the pretty chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Also, you may see a globe of the world near the rear window. The floor has pretty parquet inlaid of various fine woods such as walnut and birch, probably some maple. On the right side of the room is a fireplace. That too is made of walnut and is an old-fashioned piece that was found in many of the old Southern colonial homes. Directly above the mantel is a plaque which I sent off for, and it happens to be the Friedman coat of arms. We return through the foyer and go through an archway at the far end into our dining room. We are greeted with some fine furniture, which was period furniture typical of that day, and on the dining room table is a flower arrangement made by Pearl Brook, who also made the beautiful drapes at the rear of the room on the windows. The needlepoint rug under the dining room table was made by Sarah, and all other colors are coordinated with the drapes and the seats of the chairs. A crystal chandelier hangs from the ceiling over our dining room table. The walls of our dining room are covered with beautiful damask wallpaper overlaid with solid color panels. Below the panels are our chair rail and our smaller panels, which made a beautiful design for the wall coverings. On the opposite wall, we have a marbled fireplace with lighted sconces over the mantel, and directly in front we have the needle-pointed bell pull, which is coordinated with the panel of the needle-pointed rug under the dining room table. In the rear of this room is a door that leads us into the kitchen. We're in the kitchen and we note the high back wooden chairs on the kitchen, next to the kitchen table, and on the kitchen table is a beautiful lace tablecloth. In the centerpiece we have our fruit, which is ready for eating. The old-fashioned wood stove is on the left, and on the floor between the wood stove and the sink is our butter churn. On the sink, naturally, we have to pump our own water. We have a water pump. On the wall, Sarah has her needlepoint "God Bless Our Home," and look at the cute cafe curtains that Pearl made for the windows. In the rear corner, we also have one of those old-fashioned ice chests. A typical country chandelier hangs from the ceiling over the kitchen table. The floor has a patterned mortised floor, and each one of the rooms has a different floor motif. Going back into the foyer, we go upstairs and we come out on the second floor into a hallway that leads out into the balcony and also into one of our bedrooms. We enter into the bedroom and we are greeted by a magnificent creation by Rosemary Tucker in a teaster bed typical of this era. On the floor, Sarah again has shown her handicraft in a beautiful needlepoint, and you can see the needlepoint stand next to the chair where Sarah has been working. In the rear of the bedroom is a very unusual bathtub that we don't see any more of nowadays. This is all porcelain and is hand painted. The usual fireplace is on the left, as none of these homes ever had central heating. Each room usually had its own fireplace. Going through a door of the bedroom, we pass into the bathroom, which we will show you next. In this bathroom, instead of a fireplace, we note a heavy cast iron wood stove, and in the rear is the heavy cast iron tub, sink, and on the left is our cast iron toilet. In the front, it looks like the lady of the house has gotten undressed and left her negligee and bedroom slippers, preparing for her bath. Also, someone has left their newspapers alongside the toilet. The drapes on the windows are handmade Austrian drapes by Pearl Brook. That's enough. We've now crossed over the foyer into the other side of the house, and we are in the bedroom that is entirely different in finish than any of the other furniture in the house. Most of the furniture is of dark walnut or mahogany, whereas this bedroom suite is of light-colored maple finish. Incidentally, the floor in this bedroom is also of light-colored maple. The treatment on the window is contrasting two-tone lace curtains and dark drapes. We also have a very beautiful chaise lounge in the rear of the bedroom, so Madame can rest during her leisure hours. The pillows on the bed are another one of Sarah's needlepoint handicrafts. The decor in this bedroom is mostly of pink and green combinations between the wallpaper, the bedspread, and the rug. It makes a very pleasant combination. The drapes are quite different in this room, and as you can see, there is plenty of light both from the ceiling and the sconces on the walls. The usual negligee and slippers are thrown around on the bed. Evidently, Madame is getting ready for her nightcap. And in the rear of the bedroom is a very beautiful vanity skirt and bench with its makeup mirror waiting for Madame to make up. We go back into the hall, up the last staircase into the attic area, where we see the captain's office and a all-steel spiral staircase that continues up into the widow's walk and captain's quarters. There is a spyglass looking out on the balcony, evidently searching for ships on the horizon, and in the rear of the widow's walk is a memento from the captain's ship. the wheel. In the attic area, we have a doorway on either side that I'm pointing to right here that opens in case we have any trouble. We have 5 electrical transformers that regulate the current in the entire electrical system of the house. This is a final overview of Sarah's beautiful southern mansion. As we did in the past, we set Sarah's home on the lawn and took a picture of her home as we see in this final result.